Yes, thank you. Pranam to all the participants. This is our 11th IKS-TKDL workshop. We welcome all of you. So today, this is our first day of the workshop. Before we go to the first session, Sir Professor Ganti S. Murthy sir will take the today's session. Before that, we will just brief about the workshop. So we'll have a 50-minute session each day that will be followed by 10-minute assessment session, then 30-minute question and answer. So today is the first day. Sir will take about IKS, its relevance in a changing world. On the second day, ma'am, Dr. Vishyanani Satyagiri ma'am will talk about the overview of expense of TK, traditional knowledge, and its significance. On the third day, we'll have IPR. We'll look into about IPRs that will be taken by our sir, Anil Kumar sir. Then on the fourth and fifth, we'll look into the ethical aspects of TK and how we can protect traditional knowledge. Two aspects. One is positive, another is defensive. This is our 5 sessions in this week, and next Monday, that would be our assessment, final assessment, which will be taken after concluding session. Ma'am will take that session. So this is the overall structure of our workshop. So before that, we will start our invocation with invocation mantra. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahi Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We request all of you, please make sure you are muted during the session. It's very problematic if you unmute your mic. We request all of you, please make sure, and everything will be accessible from your Google Drive folder, which you have received through mail. Everything will be accessible. So after the session, we'll share the assessment link. You can access from that folder also, and we'll share in the chat box. So Pranam sir, please start your session. We'll enjoy.
Namaste everyone. Thank you so much, Piyush. Matrubhyo namaha, Pitrubhyo namaha, Gurubhyo namaha, Sabhaye namaha, Sabhapatibhyo namaha. Namaste to all. Am I audible?
Yes, Professor, you're audible.
Yes, thank you so much. And are my slides changing?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
Yes, okay. Thank you so much. So today we'll be basically discussing a little bit about what is this Indian knowledge systems and why is it relevant and its importance in a changing world. So for the outline of the presentation, essentially I will be talking about what is IKS, why is it relevant today, how will it help our nation and the world, and how do we do research in IKS and how is it different from the research that we are currently doing, and then how can you personally contribute, and a little bit about the IKS division if you have some time. So these are the 5 things that I'm hoping to cover today, and so that we can have a good discussion about these elements. So now if you think about the world as it exists today, we are facing a lot of existential challenges. So, for example, we talk about Viksit Bharat by 2047, but then by that time, the world will also grow to be a 10 billion population of the world. And then how do we really provide food, feed, clean water? Hello?
Yes,
Am I
sir, you are
audible?
audible. Yes, sir, you
Yeah.
are audible.
You're
Okay.
audible, sir.
So how do we provide clean food, clean water, food, basically basic resources for all of these 10 billion people? That is going to be a huge challenge because we're not creating new earths every day. Whatever we do, we'll have to manage with the same earth that we have. And this is where that limits to growth really hits it. And then we basically understand then that we are basically facing not a simple challenge, but something that is existential in nature. And existential challenges require different way of thinking to solve them, because the kind of thought processes that brought us these challenges cannot be solved by the same thought process. So this is the real reason why we need to really have different perspectives for solving some of these, what we call as wicked problems in the sustainability literature. And then if you look at how the world is trying to really solve these problems, we are like those six blind men. And in the Panchatantra, we are trying to solve basically within our disciplinary context. So, for example, the economists will be looking at it from a purely economic perspective. A biologist will be looking at it from a biology perspective. Some engineer will be looking at it from an engineering perspective. Politician will be looking at it from a policy perspective, so on and so forth. But then where is the interaction between all of them? Where is the systems approach to solve these existential problems? Because these problems by nature are something that you cannot solve using the reductionist paradigm. We have to have what we call as a holistic thinking or systems approach for solving these problems. And this is where the current models of development, current models of thought processes are completely inadequate. And before we do that, essentially we need to understand why and what is this IKS and why is it relevant? It is relevant because it provides a different perspective, what we call as Bharatiya Drishti. What is this Bharatiya Drishti? We'll just talk about it in a few minutes' time. And then let's also talk about what is this IKS that people keep talking about? What is this Indian knowledge systems? So if you look at the recent mention in the National Education Policy of 2020, it says that the rich heritage of ancient and eternal Indian knowledge and thought has been a guiding light for this policy. And it talks about it in multiple sections that deal with curricular integration of essential subject skills and capacities, and other one where which section 11 which talks about multidisciplinary and holistic education, section 17 which talks about quality academic research, section 20 which talks about professional education and promotion of Indian languages. All of these places essentially have Indian knowledge systems referred in the national education policy.
I request everyone to please mute yourself. Yeah, you're disturbing the speaker and the other people. Professor Murthy, I think they have muted you also. You'll have to unmute yourself.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. If we have to give a formal definition of what Indian knowledge systems is, scholars ko bula lungi to tu bhi to meri scholar hai. We can basically say that Indian knowledge systems constitute the evolving body of the jnana, which is knowledge, vijnana, systematized and applied understanding, and jivana darshana, civilization worldview, that has emerged within the cultural continuum of Bharat through sustained inquiry, which is grounded in experience, which you call as anubhava, observation or pratyaksha pramana, inference, anumana pramana, reasoned logic, which is yukti, and then validated testimony, which is shabda. This is basically rooted in dharmic cosmology and oriented towards individual and global well-being. And IKS integrates theory and practice across various domains, such as education, arts, governance, jurisprudence, health, ecology, manufacturing, and commerce. Indian knowledge systems has been preserved, debated, refined, and transmitted through textual, oral, performative, and artisanal traditions in all languages of Bharat. So when we talk about IKS, the textual traditions, the manuscripts, the Shastras that we talk about are less than 10% of the total body of knowledge that we have. Most of it is in the oral traditions, performative traditions, and artistic traditions that are there in all languages of Bharat, primarily in Sanskrit. And when we talk about this, essentially, where is this Indian knowledge systems coming from? That triad that I was talking about, the Vijnana, Jnana, and Jivana Darshana, is at the core of what we call as Indian knowledge systems. This Indian knowledge systems basically this triad of Vijnana, which is the applied knowledge, or basically the knowledge that is observational knowledge that is gained, empirical knowledge, and then the Jnana, which is the refinement of that into mental models, and then the Jivana Darshana, which is the worldview that comes out of that, are essentially the triad that underpin the uniqueness of what we talk about as Indian knowledge systems. That means if we are saying that this knowledge system is Indian, it is Indian because of this triad of Vijnana, Jnana, and Jivana Darshana, which is unique to Bharat. Similarly, we have Chinese knowledge systems, we can say that. We have Greco-Roman knowledge systems, we can say that. Similarly, other civilizations basically have their own knowledge systems, which is based on their own unique Jivan Darshana, Jnana, and the Vijnana. And this triad expresses itself in various disciplines as the Drishti, Parampara, and then the Laukika Prayojana. The Drishti is the perspective of that particular discipline. Parampara is a knowledge transmission that happens in that tradition, whether through textual traditions, or artistic traditions, oral traditions, or any other form of transmission of the knowledge. That is essentially the parampara. And then when we talk about Laukika Prayojana, the end point for that parampara is something that is ending at some kind of a utility value, whether it is mostly in the physical domain, that is the Laukika Prayojana, worldly domain, or even the Adhyatmika domain. So we are primarily restricting ourselves to the Laukika Prayojana. So when we talk about these three things, then the most important thing for us becomes this parampara. What is it that this parampara that we are talking about? The parampara there is all about maintaining the flow of knowledge. And when we talk about that again has three components: preservation, transmission, and creation. So when we talk about the preservation, we are primarily, most of the time we talk about digitization and scanning of the books or the manuscripts. But then that is important, but an incomplete part of the preservation. The most important part of the preservation is the preserving the drishti, the perspective. IKS drishti is the most important perspective, because until and unless we preserve the perspective with which we look at the world, so-called the lenses which we wear to see the world and the cosmos, that essentially is the Bharatiya drishti, which is something that is needed. And then preservation of that is at the core of any preservation mission. Then comes the preservation of the manuscripts, art forms, all of those other things. Then once we preserve the knowledge, we also have to transmit it, because preserving the knowledge and keeping it in libraries will not work unless we transmit it to the next generation. And when we talk about transmitting it to the next generation, we have to understand that the ways of transmission are continuously evolving and continuously changing. Therefore, so for example, the way that the classrooms are today was not the way that classrooms used to be 150 years ago. There was no internet, there were no computers in the classroom at that time. It was a very different world. And if you go even before that, people, you sit under a tree and learn. So the kind of classroom structure, the way that the pedagogy is, all of those things are continuously changing. Therefore, when we talk about IKS transmission, we have to understand that and then continuously adapt to the new circumstances. Now, while the second part is done, so preservation of the knowledge and the drishti, second is the transmission of this knowledge which has been preserved to the next generation, subsequent generations. And as we do that, we have to continuously evolve our pedagogies. Now, the third part is a very, very crucial part for any living knowledge system. So a dead knowledge system will be limited to a given number of books or given number of texts that are basically going to be there in a museum, and then we will be there. But then a living knowledge system will not stay only in libraries. It will also come into the laboratories, and then continuously creation is happening, knowledge creation is happening, knowledge basically discovery is happening in the world. All of that is part of a living tradition of any living tradition. And therefore, this creation of new knowledge is an integral part of the IKS mission and IKS work, because we cannot call the cycle to be complete unless there is preservation, transmission, and creation. And this triad is simply called as the Srishti Sthiti Laya, essentially, in our traditions. And then, therefore, when you look at the knowledge creation, it is continuous in IKS. It is not static. Therefore, IKS cannot be studied as history studies. Neither is it limited to Vedas, Puranas, Upanishads, and Bhagavad Gita or Hindu studies, because this encompasses much more than that. This encompasses all the Jaina, Buddha, Sikh traditions. All of those traditions are included in this, what we call as Bharatiya Jnana Parampara. And tribal traditions of Northeast, tribal traditions of Chhattisgarh, they're all integral part of Indian knowledge systems. And they occur in all languages of Bharat, be they be in Assamese, be they be in Kashmiri, Gujarati, Chhattisgarhi, or Tamil, Tulu, or any language, Banjara language. You can pick up any language of our Bharat, and then all Bharat's languages have IKS embedded in them. So we cannot talk of transmission of IKS without these languages. Neither can we talk about Indian knowledge systems without talking about the Avaidika paramparas like Jaina, Buddha, Charavaka, all of those things. They're all things that make Indian knowledge systems complete to what it is. So therefore, this triad of preservation, transmission, and creation is an integral part of what we call as parampara. So I was basically talking about the fact that we need to preserve the drishti. What is this Bharatiya drishti that makes this IKS unique? Is essentially, if you look at what is it that our worldview consists of that makes this Bharatiya drishti unique, there are few elements that make it unique. For example, the very first one is that we look at everything at three levels: Adhibhautika, Adhidaivika, and Adhyatmika. So what is Adhibhautika? Adhibhautika is at a physical level of reality. Adhidaivika is at a kind of, I could say, mental plane of reality. And Adhyatmika is something that it is at a spiritual plane. And then these are the three levels of reality that we all look at. And then there are four goals of life, as you all know: Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. The Artha, Kama, and Dharma are the for this world, and then Moksha is for the next world. So it is called Paradharma. And then there are also four stages of life that we have. So basically, the Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa are four stages of life. These are called four ashramas. So three levels of reality, four goals of life, four ashramas, and then the circular concept of time, which has the Srishti, Sthiti, and Laya, and then the cycles embedded within cycles. So there is a big cycle which has smaller number of cycles, which is something that we all observe. We observe that there is a lunar cycle, there is a daily cycle, there is a daily cycle of sun setting and getting up, and then lunar cycle of Purnima to Purnima. Again, there is a seasonal cycle of sun moving from Uttarayana to Dakshinayana, moving to the north, moving to the south, and then there is a yearly cycle that we see. Then there is a 12-yearly cycle of Jupiter. All of these things, when we add up, you can see that there are cycles all the way from microseconds or milliseconds to billions and billions of light years. All of these are embedded in each other, and therefore the time itself moves in a circular fashion for us. That is the circularity of time, cycle of time, time cycle, or the universal cycles that Bharatiya Jnana Parampara basically conceives the world as, consisting of cycles, small or big. And then when we talk about, this is essentially the aspect of Bharatiya Drishti. And then when we talk about Bharatiya Drishti, and then compare and contrast it to what we call as Paschatya or Western Drishti, it is that when we look at what is it that the good things in the Western philosophy, if you look at it, it talks about what is Hita, what is Priya, what is Labha. That means what is good for us, what is pleasurable for us, what is profitable for us. So if you look at all of these things, they are basically rooted in materialism. So that is, they are all jada. So these are called in our tradition as Laghu Mulya. So all smaller values. And then if you look at all of these things, essentially you will see that the prayojana is missing. Prayojana is the purpose. So when you do the Purvapaksha or reverse analysis, reverse the gauge on the Western philosophies, then when you look at the Bharatiya Drishti, we always talk about Dharma Drishti, Nyaya Drishti, Satya Drishti. These are all called in our tradition as Guru Mulya because they're all based on the Chaitanya, the consciousness principle. So whereas the materialistic principles are all based on Jada. So Bharatiya traditions do not dismiss the Western view of Hita, Priya, Labha and Jada. They talk of them as Laghu Mulya, which should be pursued. But then at the same time, the Guru Mulya or the higher values, as we call them, of Nyaya, Satya and Dharma, they have to be pursued as well. And that is something that has to be given an equal importance, if not more, compared to the Jada values. So therefore, when you look at the basically contemporary narratives that are there, you will very quickly find that it is not basically the fight is not between falsehood because the fight is with the partial truth because some of this is correct but then some of them it is also not true. Therefore when we try to bring in the Bharati Jnana Parampara, we'll have to be very careful how we bring it because uh, I mean all of these Hita, Priya, Labha, Mulyas, Laghu Mulyas are not rejected. They are only partially true. Therefore, that is essentially what we are fighting against. And therefore, the studying the itihasa, historical timelines, studies, this is not basically what IKS is about. IKS is about the drishti primarily, and this is something that helps. So again, I want to clarify this a little bit with probably with an example. Let's say we have put why Bharatiya drishti and maintaining that is so important. So let's say we keep a piece of rope in the room, and then we know that we have kept a rope, and then somebody coming from the outside mistakes it for a snake. And then that person yells, "Oh, there is a big snake there." And then if somebody goes and asks him, "What do you see there?" He will say, "I see a very poisonous snake. I see a very harmful snake, something that is very basically something that will generate a lot of fear in me. It scares me and it is poisonous. It is vicious, all of these things. Now, if somebody then again comes to you and then says, "Oh, that fellow is saying there is a big snake there. What is your reaction? What do you see there?" So if you respond saying that, "Oh, no, no, it is not a poisonous snake. It is not scary at all. It is in fact a vegetarian snake. It will not do you anything to you. And don't worry about it. Go touch it. It will not do anything." So will that other person be convinced? That is not the way that we should be responding to. The proper way of response is that to say that this is not a snake at all. This is a misconception. It is a rope. And suddenly when we talk about a rope, it suddenly becomes all those things that the snake is not. It is not poisonous. It is not scary. It is simply just there. And this is essentially something that we need to be thinking about because the difference between the snake and the rope is the description given by somebody else looking at our civilization versus what our civilization talks about, the Bharatiya Drishti. So if you look at this picture here, you will probably see a bunch of nuns dancing, and then there is another nun standing on a pedestal with a frond in her palm frond or something in her left hand, and a book in her right hand, and her face is black. And then there is another white lady dressed as a nun who is going with a box of sweets, and then he's trying to offer it to that person standing on the pedestal. And if you look at this, most likely you are feeling that this is some kind of a church. And you would not be very wrong because this painting was painted by a French painter who never left France. And this French painter painted this painting based on the description of a temple in Malabar region of Kerala given by Marco Polo. So when Marco Polo's travels and all that, he was getting some paintings in his book. So this was what he described. And then this is what the painting based on, this is a painting that the French painter painted based on Marco Polo's description. Now, observe this carefully. This no way looks like a temple in Kerala. What would have Marco Polo seen? Perhaps something like this in a temple. Now, why did this guy paint a picture like this? Yes, one explanation could be that this French painter was basically hating India and then was trying to misrepresent India or something like that. Yeah, maybe true, but then it is unlikely because that fellow never even had a reason to hate India. So why would he paint something like this, which is based on this? So think about it. If a basically, let's say Marco Polo, I'm just assuming things here. I'm assuming that I'm guessing the conversation between the Marco Polo and French painter would have gone something like this. Marco Polo would have said, "Oh, I visited India, Malabar region of India, and there I saw a very holy place." And immediately the French painter thinks, "Oh, because he never left France. He was just living near Paris for the whole of his life. For him, the only conception of a holy place would be a church." And then Marco Polo would have said, "Oh, in that holy place, I saw a lot of women dancing." Oh, then this French painter would have thought about this and then said, "Oh, holy place is church. Who is in the church? Nuns. Ah, so let me draw a few nuns." So he drew dancing nuns. And then Marco Polo would have said there was a pedestal on which there was a black statue of some goddess who was carrying some kind of a green this thing, sugar cane, and in one of her hands she had a book. So this fellow would never have seen a sugar cane, so he drew something like a palm frond. So he'd asked him, "Okay, what is a sugar cane? I don't know about it." So Marco Polo would have replied, "Oh, it looks something like a leaf of a palm tree." So then he drew a palm frond and then a book. And then he also said, "Oh, there were some women who were also offering some things to this deity." So he drew that box of sweets there. And then you can see how the painting on to your left basically is the original. The picture on the left is the original one that Marco Polo would have seen. Even without bad intentions, it may result in a painting on the right. Why? Because the Bharatiya Drishti is lacking. If we have the Bharatiya Drishti, we would have described it like this picture on the left. And this is so important. This is the reason why we need to talk about the Bharatiya Drishti. So the one that you see on your painting that you see is the snake, just as a foreigner saw without understanding what Bharat is about. And then original Bharat is something like this. And this essentially is the Rajju and the Sarpa. This fellow here, his name is James Stuart Mill, and he wrote 6 volumes of British India, the history of British India, 6 volumes. And he very arrogantly writes in his preface of this book that basically I am the colonial master, essentially, and you natives of India, you Indians don't know what your country looks like. You're like the 6 blind men around an elephant. I'm like this wise Britisher who will tell you what this elephant looks like based on what you have written about your country. And the funny thing is, James Stuart Mill has never stepped in India. He was sitting in England and writing about British India based on the reports that were sent by other British officers. Now you can think what kind of a British India's history he would have written, how biased it would be. And unfortunately, even today, we are using this as the reference text in some of our history curriculums. That is a challenge. Now, there is another thing that is very unique about Bharatiya Jnana Parampara, which I will dwell a little bit and then move fast to other areas, because these are 2 or 3 very, very important aspects that I want to touch. So let's say many of you are from science background and mathematics background. So what you see on the screen is a graph with some independent variable on x-axis, some dependent variable on y-axis. Whatever, it could be anything. And then all of these observations, green dots, black dots, blue dots, red dots, they're all from your experiments. Now, what do we do when we are trying to analyze this? We draw a line and then statistical line. Let's say the R square is 0.8 or something. And we say that, yes, this is the line. That is good. So what do we call in our usual language the black dots, green dots, and red dots? We would call them as outliers. These dots are called outliers. Now, why are they outliers? If you think a little bit about it, Basically, they are outliers because they don't match my line. They don't fit my line. Therefore, they are outliers. But then in that statement itself, we have subtly indicated that the line is the supreme thing, not the dots. Because all of these dots, black dots, green dots, red dots, they're equally valid observations of the system. Now we have simplified the system into a linear system, and then we are calling that anything that doesn't fit my linear way of the world, looking at the world, is essentially outlier. And this is where all the fights start. What was the Indian way of looking at it? We drew a black line there, we drew a green line here and a red line here, and then said within the context of the red dots, that red dotted circle, the red line is the best line. Within the context of the green dotted circle, the green line is the best line. Same thing with the black line, the blue line. So we say inherently all of these lines are acceptable. Not all of them are true all the time. And this is something that we are very comfortable with as Indians. Now, if you think, what will that my line is the best line kind of a argument will lead to? My line is the best line, right? Others are all outliers. My book is the best book. My God is the best God. Others are all to be killed or whatever. These are the kind of things that we'll say. And this is exactly what the Western knowledge systems is perpetuating, that linear model of thinking. This is the reason we need a Bharatiya Drishti, because we are inherently inclusive. And this is the only solution for what we call as epistemological violence. Now, again, this is something that is reflected. This is not something that I have come up with. This is something that is reflected in all our Upanishads. For example, the very first shloka, mantra of Ishavasya Upanishad begins like this. Om Ishavasya Medagam Sarvam Yatkincha Jagatyam Jagat Tena Tyaktena Munjida Magrudah Kaswasiddhanam. Ishavasya Midam Sarvam. All of it is pervaded, all of this universe is pervaded by that divine. And then if you look at one of the very interesting conversations between Yajnavalkya and Maitreyi in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, he says, Nava are lokanam kamaya lokah priya bhavanti atmanastu kamaya lokah priya bhavanti. Says, we don't like the world because for the sake of the world. We like the world because we see a reflection of ourselves in the world. That means we are basically pervading everything. We are the Ishvara. That is essentially what the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is telling us. This kind of an inclusivity, this kind of a inclusiveness is something that is the solution for what we call as an epistemological violence that basically consistently the Western models perpetuate. This is the reason why we need a Bharatiya Drishti. Now, we are also we talk about sustainability in a big way. When you really look at sustainability in its broadest sense, then it is nothing but what we call in our Shastras as Dharma Drishti. So from the Satya, unmanifest truth, Ratam comes the order of the cosmos, and from that it expands into Brihat and Mahat. And when we align our individual cycles of Artha, Kama, and Moksha with the cosmic cycles, then we get what we call as the Yoga and Kshema. Yoga is getting things that we don't have, prosperity, and Kshema is wellness, essentially, in that sense, preserving what we already have. Yoga and Kshema is a result of aligning our own individual cycles with the cosmic cycles. And this alignment is nothing but what is called as a dharma. So behaving in a way that aligns with the natural cycles, behaving in a way that aligns with the cosmic cycles is essentially the dharma. So for example, for a farmer to pick weeds, to kill the plants by picking out the weedy plants from his farm is dharma. For the same farmer to go out and pick plants in a forest is adharma. You see how these things work. Is the same farmer doing the same action, but then in one thing he's doing it in his farm, which is classified as dharma. In another case, he goes out into forest and removes the weeds, plants unnecessarily, which is not in alignment with the cosmic cycles, therefore it is adharma. In the field, it is his dharma to do it because he has to preserve his crop. Same thing, cutting the hand of a person. If it is done by a criminal, it is a crime. But if it is done by a surgeon in an operation theater, it is the dharma. So you can see how this concept of dharma is really, when we bring that concept of the dharma drishti, it is essentially nothing but the sustainability in the broadest sense. This is what Bharatiya Jnana Parampara or the Indian knowledge systems brings to the table that we are currently missing from our analytical frameworks. It is nothing but you can think about it as a Swiss watch, and we are one of the cogs, and we are aligning with that entire machinery. And as long as we are working in tune with that machinery, our behavior is dharmic. If we are out of tune, then it essentially becomes an adharmic thing. So when we talk about integration of this Bharati Jnana Parampara, we have to ensure that it is not cosmetic. Just like what you're seeing there, there's a rock concert, and in that rock concert, they're playing some heavy metal music or something like that. And then there is a tabalchi who is playing some tabla tunes there. This kind of a integration of Indian instruments into Western music will not be proper integration. This is not, this is only a whitewashing of this lip service, paying lip service to integration of IKS. What is a real integration of IKS? This is kind of an integration of ideas into IKS. For example, this is a concert team of MS Subbulakshmi Amma, who was a great doyen of Carnatic music. And if you see in her team, to the rightmost person is holding a violin. If you look at it, violin is a completely Western instrument, European instrument that has been adopted by Carnatic musicians so much so that today a Carnatic concert cannot be imagined without a violin. We play gamakas on it. We have used that instrument, but then we have tuned it for our purposes. This is what we call as integration of IKS. And now we'll talk a little bit about how will this help our nation and world. So if you look at all of these existential crises that I was alluding to, I was trying to show in the previous section what is this IKS? How is it different from the Western knowledge systems? And then what are the unique factors that it brings in? One is the solutions to the epistemological violence. The second one was the Bharatiya Drishti and the ways in which we can think about it. And now these existential crises need new paradigms of thinking. And whether we are talking about economics, communication, health, sustainable development, overall development, life goals of the overall development of humans, sustainable agriculture, algorithms, wellness, public policy, smart materials, all of these things require new paradigms of thinking. And that new paradigm of thinking can basically be contributed by the Indian knowledge systems. That is something that is very important. So just take an example of economics, for example. The capitalism is primarily, if you look at it from a Bharatiya perspective, will be called as a Shuddha Labha paradigm. That means pure profit paradigm. It only maximizes for profit, nothing else. Therefore, if you are only into profit maximization, unbridled capitalism will lead into exploitation of humans and nature also, and will result in pseudo democracies, as we are seeing in US, Europe, and all of these places. Few companies will rule the country. But then, on the other hand, the communism came as a response to the unbridled capitalism in London. Karl Marx wrote his Das Kapital in London when capitalism was at its peak. Why? Because as a response to that exploitation of humans and nature in capitalism, he said, Shuddha Labh is one extreme, we should go to Shunya Labh, zero profit. But then unbridled communism will lead to stifling of innovation and entrepreneurship. Because if everybody gets the average, nobody will work hard. There is no need to innovate because nobody is going to get anything more. So there is no incentive for working hard. So again, even in these cases, it will lead to exploitation of humans and nature and dictatorships, as we have seen in the past and we are seeing in North Korea today and China and all of these places, which are all practically nothing but dictatorships. So we can see how the Shuddha Labha, unbridled capitalism, or Shunya Labha, communism, are not the solutions for the world. But then what was the Bharatiya way of doing things? We dominated the world's economic GDP and economies with contributing up to 25% of that for about 1600 years. Bharat's paradigm of economic development is called Shubha Labha. You would probably have seen on the doorways around Deepavali, we put this thing, Shubha Labh. What does that mean? Basically, it means that I want labha for myself as an entrepreneur, but I also want shubha, the welfare of everybody, my stakeholders, my supply chain managers, supply chain, the people who supply raw goods to me, the consumers who buy things from me, my financiers, my family, the world that I interact with, everybody should be facing the subha, should be getting the shubha. Unka shubha hona chahiye. Unka kalyan hona chahiye. That shubha labh is that kind of a mindset. In this kind of a mindset, exploitation is almost impossible because dharma acts as a check both on unbridled profit motive and on the negation of the wealth creation. So both of these things are not possible in a Shubhla framework. Therefore, people are encouraged to work, but then accumulate wealth and also share it with others. So when you have that kind of a society, you have a very harmonious society. And that's essentially what that Shubhalabha model of economics does. And then the Bharatiya framework for individual this thing is also something that is based on pursuit of happiness, pursuit of ananda, not the pursuit of consumption. If you look at all the advertisements that are coming out today, carefully observe them. All they will tell you is you buy our product and you will be happy. So they're essentially taking your money to sell you a product which they claim will give you happiness. The Bharatiya way of looking at it is slightly different. We go to the root of the problem and then say, oh, we are all at the core pursuing happiness. We all want to be happy, regardless of who we are, what religion we belong to, which place we come from, what we are. We all want to be happy. No, none of us wants to do anything bad to the others. This is essentially what we are planning. What we think about ourselves, and we all want to do good. This is the basic human nature, pursuit of ananda. Now, why should pursuit of consumption be an intermediary is basically the Bharatiya way of thinking. And when you think at that root cause and then try to pursue the ananda directly rather than an indirect indicator like consumption, then it will naturally lead to this identification of nature with ourselves and then thriving with nature, and then also a sensible growth that meets the needs of all and also leads to societal harmony. Because consumption will vary, abilities are different. There is equality of outcome is not guaranteed in nature. Equality of opportunity is guaranteed in a human society because we actively strive for it, but then the outputs cannot be guaranteed. And therefore, we cannot have unlimited growth and we cannot have exploitation of nature because that will lead to societal discord. Whereas the pursuit of ananda is something that will really lead to societal harmony and thriving with nature. Therefore, this is the reason why we conceptualized the wealth as eightfold wealth, not just as for us, the wealth did not only mean money. For us, Lakshmi meant Ashtalakshmi, not only Dhanalakshmi. So we were not basically somebody who gave up life. We were not somebody who would basically renounce the world and go to Himalayas and then sit there and then do tapasyas. That was done by a very, very, very small fraction of people. Most of the people wanted all forms of wealth. They were into multi-dimensional wealth creation. So we wanted Dhanalakshmi, which is the monetary aspect of wealth. We also wanted Vidya Lakshmi, which is knowledge component of wealth, because knowledge is also wealth. Vijay Lakshmi, the progress and development is wealth. Santana Lakshmi, the human resources, human capital, the families, these are all our wealth. Gajalakshmi, the biodiversity, animals, these are all also components of wealth. Dhairya Lakshmi, the mental fortitude, the psychological ability to withstand the ups and downs of the life is also a wealth. Dhanya Lakshmi, the abundance of food and agricultural wealth is something that is called as Dhanya Lakshmi. Adi Lakshmi is the spiritual growth and ecological wealth. When you look at these eightfold dimensions of prosperity, this is what the Ashtalakshmi concept represents. So we are pursuing not only the Dhanalakshmi, but all the Ashtalakshmis. This was the Bharatiya Drishti of multi-dimensional wealth creation. Now, another aspect of Bharatiya Jnana Parampara was a systemic approach to various things. For example, in Ayurveda, we talk about the Tridosha concept, which is based on a systemic approach. In allopathy, is much more based on a reductionist approach of looking at human body as a system of organs and systems of various systems, subsystems. And each of the subsystem, for example, let's say respiratory system will have its own organs like lungs, trachea, bronchi, nose, nostrils, all of those things. And then within that, you will have cells, tissues, all of these other things. So from there, it goes to the cells, molecular level, and atomic level. So it goes all the way from gross human body to organ systems, and then organs, cells, proteins, molecules, and then to the atoms and subatomic particles. So this is the reductionist paradigm that we are what typically employ in allopathy. Ayurveda, on the other hand, talks about the systemic approach. Similarly, even food, when we talk about classification of food, the drishti can be different. For example, let's say we are looking at that plate of food there. It can be talked about as, okay, I can measure the amount of protein in it, carbohydrates, lipids, fats, vitamins, minerals, all of these things can be done. But we also can classify the food based on the Ayurvedic principles of Shadrasas, 6 tastes, Virya, Vipaka, Prabhava, the impact on the mind, impact on the doshas, all of those things. So that is a different way of looking at the same plate of food. So this is the Bharati Drishti that we are talking about. I'll skip this part and then I'll just talk a little bit about how do we do research in IKS. So if you look at the way that we can essentially look into the way that we acquire knowledge, there are 3 ways of acquiring knowledge. The very first way of acquiring knowledge is called first person inquiry, which is basically using our own experience or swanubhava. And second person inquiry is based on somebody else's testimony, or we are engaging with dialogue with somebody else, reflecting and then understanding their perspective, and then taking that as the knowledge, valid knowledge. The third person inquiry is basically based on a objective intersubjective validity, and that's essentially how the knowledge is disseminated there. Dissemination. And so if I have to give you a small example of that, let's say we have a cup of tea. The first person inquiry is I drink the cup of tea and then I know that the tea is good. Second person inquiry is I come to you. I saw that you drank a cup of tea. I come to you and then ask you, how is the tea? And then you tell me that, oh, tea is good. So that is a second person inquiry. The third person inquiry is there is a cup of tea. Both of us don't drink it. We put a thermometer, you put your own thermometer, I put my own thermometer. We measure the weights, mass, color, temperature, sugar content, all of those things. And we make a table of properties. That is a third person inquiry. The interesting thing is most of the science that we do today is based on third person inquiry, and some part of second person inquiry that is based on the third person inquiry. Science as of today completely rejects the first person inquiry, except in some fringe fields. And yeah, so I'll skip this one also. So what is scientific? Essentially, when you talk about scientific methods, these are all the methods that are used in science. So as I was saying, science accepts only third person inquiry, and it does not accept first person inquiry. Introspection, because it is subjective, therefore it is not scientific. So if it follows scientific method, any of those methods there, like induction, deduction, logic computation, all of those things, then we call it as a scientific method. Otherwise, we call it as unscientific. Now, in Bharatiya traditions, we had all of these traditions. Pramanas, basically, pramanam is the way of acquiring valid knowledge. That is called as a pramanam. So the pramata is the one who is trying to know about prameya, and the state that that person will go towards is called prama. And if it follows, just like what we call as a scientific and unscientific, if it follows the pramanams, it will call it pramanikam. Otherwise, it is called apramanikam. These are all the 6 pramanas that are there. And in Bharatiya methods, we accept all 3 methods of inquiry. This is a very, very important aspect of Indian knowledge systems. So, for example, in Charavakas, you must have heard about these Charavakas. They're also called Lokayata. They only accept Pratyaksha as the pramana. So for them, only what they can see, what they can hear is pramana. If they cannot hear it, they will not consider that as a pramanikam. They will call it as apramanikam. So Bauddha will include Pratyaksha and Anumana. Pratyaksha is the direct observation, Anumana is the inference. So Bauddhas will accept both direct observation and inferences. For them, that is Pramanikam. Everything else is Apramanikam. The Jainas, on the other hand, will accept the Shabda also Pramanik as a Pramana, as long as it is Jaina Agama. So it is Avaidika. They don't accept Vedas as Pramanas. Vaisheshika, Sankhya, Yoga also accept these three Pramanas, but they also accept the Vaidika literature, corpus, Vaidika Samhitas as a Pramana. So they are called Pramanikam if they accept Pratyaksha, Anumana and Shabda, Vaidika Shabda. For the Vaisheshika, Sankhya, Yoga. Otherwise, they will be called Apramanikam. When it comes to Vedanta, it accepts all six Pramanas. Now, as you can see, even within our own traditions, there are variations in which Pramanas are accepted, which Pramanas are not accepted. So what is Pramanikam for Vedantis will not be Pramanikam for Charvakas, perhaps. All of these things are possible. So if I have to put it in a modern language, what would be scientific for a Vedanti would be unscientific for a Charavaka or a Bauddha. So that is essentially because the Pramanas are different. The valid means of acquiring knowledge is different. Now, where does the modern science fall in all of this? So if you look at it, basically science falls in that place because it also accepts the pratyaksha, what we call as a third person inquiry. The first part, half of it, it doesn't accept the first part, first person inquiry. Therefore, that pratyaksham is only half. Anumana, again, whatever is based on the third person inquiry. The Shabda, again, based on these two things, whatever is there, all the peer reviewed literature, journal papers, they're all Shabda Pramanas, as we call it. So if you compare this to basically the other Bharatiya Pramanas, very surprisingly, scientific inquiry comes very close to the Jainas. Jaina methods of doing things. But Jaina method also accepts the first person inquiry. Scientific methods do not. Therefore, when we think about all of these ones, this is where then you may ask, what about the technological advancement? I mean, we have invented many devices like microscopes, telescopes, all of these things. So what that technological advancement does is it acts as a upakarana or is enabler for the pratyaksha, and then expands the role of pratyaksha pramana into other domains. So for example, to give you one example there, so in Ayurveda, back in old days, 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, they could only infer that some of the diseases are caused by some kind of a microscopic particles that they cannot see. They called them as kshudraanus. They only could infer them. They could not see it with their eyes. So they could only infer that there could be some particles that are causing this disease. Now, today, with all the modern inventions of microscopes and all that, we know that there are bacteria, viruses, all of those things. We don't have to infer them. We can actually directly see that in an electron microscope, or we can see that in a regular optical microscope. We can see the bacteria. So the scope of pratyaksha has increased so much that the anumana doesn't need to be used anymore. So we don't have to infer. We don't have to make a hypothesis that perhaps there are some kind of a small particles that cause disease. We can easily put that under a microscope and then observe. So this is what technological advancement does to pratyaksha. So this is where the modern methods are important for us. Even when we are doing the Indian knowledge system, from studying it from that perspective, we should embrace the modern technologies and essentially improve the basically pratyaksha pramana and improve the rigor of the arguments that we can make. So because we have more tools now, it is basically that. And basically, if we would talk about the differences in the Bharatiya and Western sciences, Indian methodology is primarily based on the procedures, algorithmic in its orientation. Whereas Western methodologies, whether you talk about math or science, it is based on the laws. That's why you have Newton's laws of motion, axioms, and those kind of things. So proposition based is symbolic and formal, and you have to commit to it ontologically. So you have to frame. So for example, if you're doing geometry, then you have to commit to that Euler's this thing, Euclidean plane and geometry. If you say there are the axioms that two parallel lines never meet, that you're committing to an ontological framework that was developed by Euclid. Of course, you can get out of it in the modern mathematics by saying different things, but it still demands ontological commitment. Whereas the Indian methodology is procedural, goal-oriented, and is cognition-centered. It is centered around teaching and is always what must be validated in practice and is always pluralistic in theory. So it does not require you to commit to a particular ontology. So again, this is the difference between the Bharatiya and Western sciences. So Shastra in basically Bharatiya Jnana Parampara is a systematic procedure. It's not a theory. And it is explicitly, it articulates a scope and the purpose. We use theory as an instrument, not for ontological commitment. And in all of the Shastras, there is a foundational role for the Nyaya, which is the logic, the way that we argue, and then the Vyakarana. Epistemologically, it is always plural, and there is a hierarchy of pramanas. Pratyaksha pramana is the highest one. Then comes basically your Anumana, Shabda, all of these things. And then later on, everything. So basically, and then the Nyaya, the logic is logic of cognition. Cognition means we want to understand. It is not simply made for an argument's sake, not for propositions. And we cannot get a formal validity in Bharati traditions without material truth. For example, I can prove using Aristotelian logic that rabbits have pink horn. But in Bharatiya Jnana Parampara, you can never do that because you cannot show me a rabbit with pink horns. So therefore, we reject fictitious entities in Bharatiya Jnana Parampara. This is essentially something that is very important when we talk about non-hallucinating AI agent models, just to give you one thing. Therefore, to frame the larger this thing, the quest to fit IKS frameworks to scientific method is futile because scientific method is a subset of what IKS frameworks are able to do. But then in the fields like yoga, Sankhya, Ayurveda, agriculture, linguistics, Nyaya, we see that there is pretty much no difference between what IKS methodology is and scientific methodology is. They are one and the same. Only in very few instances will it be slightly different, but otherwise it is pretty much same as the scientific method. So we can definitely investigate all of these areas using the scientific method. And increasingly, even in the science communities, there is a recognition that excluding the positivist, objectivist perspective is not adequate. Only that what we call as a positivist and objectivist perspective is not going to be sufficient. We need other areas, first-person inquiry methods to do, especially research in phenomenology, neurophenomenology, action research, and all of these other domains. Well, again, for the lack of time, I'll not talk about all of these things. And basically, one point I was trying to make here is that methods keep evolving, and we have to adapt with times. But the principles, the drishti, is something that is eternal. So the scientific methods back in 16th century for evaluating a bhasma, or basically from Ayurveda or Siddha, would be Varna, Nischandratvam, Varitara, Unama, Rekha, Purnatva, Flakshnatvam, all of these things. Now we have SEM, TEM, all of these things. We can definitely use them to study these sizes of the nanoparticles. How do they agglomerate? All of that stuff, surface properties, all of these things can be studied. And many of our traditions, especially the Shastras, we call a tradition a Shastra if it is organized as a knowledge system. So Ayurveda is a Shastra, Nyaya is a Shastra, Vyakarana is a Shastra, because agriculture is a Shastra, because we have a series of texts, codified texts, which actually tell us how the discipline was and how the discipline is organized and then how it has evolved. And this is something that we can really look into. So yeah, again, I'll just end with, because of the paucity of time, I'll end with what Swami Vivekananda ji said. Truth does not pay homage to any society, ancient or modern. Society has to pay homage to the truth or die. And how can you contribute? In the end, I mean, I'll just say what Baba Devam was saying, that in the end, you will only conserve what we love. We will love only what we understand, and we will understand only what we are taught. As teachers, faculty members, and students, researchers, it is our duty to understand and study the Bharatiya Jnana Parampara so that we can contribute in a good way. So if you have to integrate IKS, think about your own domain and then try to do research in your own domain, and by combining whatever is the relevant domain for the IKS, and do take some of the interdisciplinary courses and think about genuine scholarly research, outreach to them, work with them, and then pursue research in Bharatiya languages. Don't start a master's program in IKS or some low-hanging fruits in IKS. And if you are a teacher, at least for next few months, you can start studying foundational materials, secondary resources that are available in English and things like that, at least 2 to 3 translated primary texts, attend FTPs, network with scholars, then start some internship projects. When you become intermediate scholars, maybe a year or two, then learn the language of your primary text. It may be Siddha texts which are in Tamil. You'll have to learn Tamil and then learn those to study those texts in Tamil. If they're in Bengali, you'll have to study Bengali and then learn Bengali and then study those texts in Bengali. If they're in Sanskritam, you'll have to learn Sanskritam and then learn to study them in Sanskritam. You cannot rely on translations for your scholarly work. Initially, it is okay, but you cannot call ourselves a serious scholar if we don't know the primary language of that discipline. We will request you to study 3 to 5 primary texts, maybe 10 secondary texts. Start deep research in IKS, start IKS centers with other colleagues. As you become an expert, maybe in a decade or so, then you need to think about how you can basically study and nurture other colleagues, work with other colleagues, and then basically then think about applying for a IKS Center of Excellence and things like that. If you are a research scholar, please do study foundational materials in IKS. There are primary and secondary texts of your IKS in your domain. Please study that. Develop expertise in your subject area. This is the most important thing that you can do.
Pranam sir, you are muted. Could you please unmute?
Okay, am I audible now?
Yes, yes, please.
Okay.
Last.
So if you are okay, I hope. If you are a student, please enroll in SWAYAM courses, apply for IKS internships, start IKS clubs on campus. If you can, clear UGC net in IKS, nothing like it. And basically, finally, I would want to conclude with a little bit about our division. And IKS division's vision is to rejuvenate and mainstream Indian knowledge systems for the contemporary world. And our objective is to decolonize the Indian mind, and by generating interest and healthy critical reverence for the unbroken knowledge traditions of Bharata for the welfare of the world. Basically, we want to bring IKS from libraries to laboratories. That's what we are trying to do. And for that, we intervene at various levels in the education system. We have a big outreach, across the country, spread across the country, 90 plus centers, 110 current research projects, over 500 projects that have been completed, 7,500 plus internships, 100 plus FDPs, 50 plus courses at UG level, 150 plus scholar publications, so on and so forth. Numbers are huge. We are spread all across the country. This is an older map. Now we have a map that has a better coverage of the country everywhere. And resources, in terms of the resources, IKS has more than 400 hours of lecture recordings from various experts on various topics of IKS. Lecture notes are provided for free on the IKS division's website, including the slides. So please do go and watch them, study them, read them. And there are more than 140 books that are all freely downloadable, IKS publications. Some of them will be very, very useful for you all. So please take a look at it and do engage with the IKS division. And our mission is to empower teachers to become acharyas. With that, I will stop here and then say that please understand, study, and add to the traditional wisdom. IKS is not history studies. It is not limited to religious studies. What makes IKS unique is Bharatiya Drishti. IKS is inherently multidisciplinary and holistic. So Again, IKS is not all about serious research. We also have a lot of fun things to do. There are many Bharatiya games that we have uncovered. There are about 75 games that you can go and read about and then play. And then particularly this Rajju Sarpa game is something that is available on Google Play in 8 languages. Please play this. It is the original version of what we call today as Snakes and Ladders. Snakes and Ladders will only give you entertainment. This game will also teach you while entertaining you. So in Bharat, learning with play was the norm. This is an example of that. And again, we don't want to make paneer pizzas. When we talk about integrating IKS, we don't want to add paneer to that pizza and then call it as an Indian pizza. We want to make samosas where the potato is imported, green chilies are imported, but samosa is Indian. They have been integrated in such a way that it becomes completely an Indian product. So with that, I'll stop here. Thank you so much for listening, and over to you, Piyush.
Yes, yes. Pranam, sir.
Namaste.
Pranam. So we are very thankful for sharing your extensive over 1 hour session, which we are today receiving. That's your last 5 year dedication. It's done. So we request all the participants, the recording will be available. So please go through it and find your within your domain what is the IKS part you can incorporate. And thank you, sir, for giving the drishti, the explanation of Bharatiya drishti, how we can incorporate within our existing education system, and how we can recognize the part where it was colonized, and how we can decolonize our Indian mind. So you incorporate many examples and case studies from science discipline, science, technology, arts, humanity. So we request all of you, please take this lens, whatever Share has presented. So please take this darshana, the drishti, which should be incorporated in each and every discipline. That's your core. It's a philosophy of IKS. What it's if we see IKS is the revolution in our Indian academia. So sir is one of the revolutionaries. So thank you, sir. Pranam. And we will follow the next 4 days sessions. Then we'll have the assessment. Pranam, sir. So
Sure.
we request, sir, please give me 10 minutes. We will complete our assessment. Then we'll take a few minutes as per your time convenient. Okay. Astu, sir. So we are sharing assessment link in the chat box. Please take 5 to 7 minutes. There are 5 MCQs. We are also going to upload in the drive. You can access from there also. And then after that, after 10 minutes, we will come back to question answer session. Astu. It's 4:45. We'll stop by 4:55. I'm going to share a PPT. So if the assessment link will be visible. If you face any difficulty, you can just see the PPT and write it on your browser. 1 second.
Where we have to, sir, actually that link is not opening some app, it is asking to download.
Just copy the link and try in other browser.
It is asking to open something.
Can you see the PPT?
PPT,
Is my
1 minute.
PPT visible?
Sir, PPT is not.
It is said in the context of Indian knowledge.
Is it visible?
No, sir, only that PP is coming your
Sir,
name.
but
Maybe.
how do we click at the link? It's visible, sir. How do we click?
No, it's for
Sir,
I am sharing in the
sir,
chat
meet is
box.
not visible.
If you can't access the chat box, you can just write
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, tinyurl.com then /bdfzu5ym. There are 8 letters.
Now it came, sir. Now it came.
Please
We
share
don't
it
have
with,
to
in the
download
chat
any-
box, sir. Please.
Just whoever is finding it
I am
difficult to
sharing in
access
the
this,
chat box also.
just click on the link and then choose the option. Use the other browser, and this way you can access. You don't have to download.
Student find preserving Indian knowledge.
Is a Google form?
Yes.
What is the concept of parampara?
Completed, sir. Thank you. Completed, sir.
Yes.
Sir, one question I want to ask. What about the resources and the online videos? Will it available in the Google Drive?
Yes. The recording will be available. We'll share. Everything will be available in the Google Drive.
What about the PPT and the resources, sir? It will be too, right?
Yes. PPT will be available also. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
I also wanted to ask about PPT only, sir. Thank you. You just asked before me. Thank you.
Yes.
So from where can we access the PPT?
You have received the folder link. We will upload everything in the folder. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Thank you very much.
सर फोल्डर लिंक ओपन ही नहीं हो रहा है.
Could you please copy the link and use in another browser?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, sir. Got it.
That Google form submitted means it's done, na sir?
Yes, it's done.
Okay,
Please join.
thank
Yes.
Share the open link.
Sir, it's done. So can
Can you share it on our respective mail
So I'm
IDs,
trying
the
to do
link of
please
PPT,
respectively.
etc.?
What
Okay.
you have received the Google folder, you can access the assessment link also in that folder only. Okay, please open it.
That I have done, sir. My point is the
Google
PPT
form is
today
done.
resource person has presented.
PPT will be uploaded in that folder only. Okay, after 1 hour. Okay.
Isn't it better you send it on our mail, respective mails?
No.
Sir, please.
Though in the folder it will be uploaded automatically.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
Sir,
you.
please give us
Sir,
some
we
time
can wait
because
for
this
the
is
question
the
answer
first
session, right?
day and we are
Yes,
trying
yes,
to
yes.
do.
What is the
So
name
we
of the
request we request another there are another 5 minutes. Okay. Then
Sir,
we'll start Q&A session.
Sir, what is the name of the folder and where it is, how it has been shared?
Folder is not uploaded yet. It will, name will be PPT and recording. Okay, there will be 2 folders
So there is
uploaded.
assessment here which I have already.
Yes, after assessment there will be another folder PPT and recording.
Sir, we are unable to do it. It is not opening.
Please copy the link only and use in another browser in your system. Okay.
Sir, assessment link or into Google Form, both are the same.
Completed, sir.
Sorry?
Sir.
Sir, PPT is not accessible.
एक तो Google Form दिया हुआ है और एक assessment link है, but both are the same.
Yes.
So we have to attempt only one.
You have to complete the 5 MCQs only. That's all. Okay.
Yeah,
thank you,
that we have done, sir.
Just MCQs only, sir. Anything else?
I am done.
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Actually, Piyush sir, might be there ample of people are there, so there is a reflection of voices.
Sir, assessment is done.
We request, please, if you have any problem, otherwise, please mute yourself. If you have any problem, please raise your question. Otherwise, please keep silent another 2-3 minutes. Then we will start Q&A session. Okay. In between, I am trying to upload.
Sir, one request. Sir, if it is possible by the end of all our IKS session, if you can share the credentials and the mail ID of the spokesperson, it will be easy for us to contact them if for some help.
Oh, okay. I'm sharing the email ID in the chat box. You have already received. Okay, I am sharing once again.
Sir, I have one doubt about
Yes, please.
assessment. About assessment, sir. Now only completed, sir. Hello, sir.
Sorry.
Sir, assessment now only completed or any time is given?
No, only another 2 minutes. Another two minutes are left. Then we will start Q&A session. Astu, it's.
Hello. Sir, give me 3 minutes, sir.
Yes.
Not complete. Not open, sir. Now only open, sir. Hello. Now only open, sir.
Please start. It's there are only 5 questions.
Sir, can you
can
please
do
share
it
the
in 1 minute.
PPT of the?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Those who have
sharing the
submitted
link once again.
this Google form can leave the meeting now.
I'm sharing the chat box once again. Google form.
Sir.
Sorry.
I'm asking those who have submitted right. They can leave the group. I mean, they can leave the meeting.
Sir, we wanted to access the PPT. How will it be possible?
Yes, this is what is.
PPT will be uploaded after a few minutes in that respective folder. Okay, you can download from the folder only. Astu?
Okay, sir. Astu.
Sir, folder. Okay.
You have received the mail now for joining.
Yes, sir. Yes,
links.
sir.
There is a master folder. Everything will be uploaded there. Please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Understood,
Yes.
sir. Thank you.
Sir, we should have a WhatsApp group for this workshop, right?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Paul, sir, am I audible?
I am not able
Yes.
to do it. May I send the screenshot?
Yes,
Sir, I'm not
if
able to
there's
do
any-
it because it's being transferred to my Gmail account, but I'm not able to open it at my phone.
If you have face any issue, please write to us. No problem. Later. Okay.
Sir, I am writing in the
Sir,
chat
sir,
box
sir.
because I'm not able to do it, or give me 1 hour, another 1 hour, so that I can resolve the issue.
please write to us. No problem, but don't
Because
take
sir, I
time in
attended
this
the
session.
entire session. I attended the entire session, but at this point of time, I'm not able to do it. Getting a lot of trouble.
Okay, write to us. Okay, chalo tu.
Shweta ma'am, kindly check your connection. It's in a Google form.
मैम
5 modules are attached.
मैम वो ना गूगल में जा रहा है, गूगल मेरे जीमेल में जा रहा है, पर वहां पे भी वो पासवर्ड वगैरह वो तब भी नहीं हो रहा.
Sir, shall we leave now?
Please, Shweta ji, don't create problem. Please write to us. We will handle that separately. Okay. Your particular issue, we will look into that. Astu?
Sir, after completing the respective submission, shall we leave the session right now, or otherwise we
Yes.
need to wait?
Sir,
No, if
sir,
you want,
I have
you
one
can.
doubt. Sir, I have one doubt.
Yes,
Only
please.
Google form I submitted, sir. Enough that one?
Yes, that's all. That's all. Please. That's all.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So give me give me a few minutes. We can start our Q&A session. Okay. We can open
No
another
need
few
to
more
wait for
minutes.
that.
Please do silently. If you have not submitted yet, please do silently. Here. Yes.
If we have submitted, we have to leave the meeting, sir.
Yes. Yes. Pranam
No
to all of
question
you.
answer
If
session.
you have submitted the assessment, you may leave. No problem.
Okay. Thank you.
Or if you are completing, please make sure your mic is muted. Yes.
Sir, is there another assessment also?
No, ma'am.
So only one this thing was there, na? Google
Yes,
one.
it's
Google
done. Okay.
Sir, every day will be assessment.
Assessment.
I'm asking, will it be every day?
Every day after the session, you will have the assessment.
Okay, sir. Then we should have a WhatsApp group, sir, so that we can
So
share
that
the
we
link
can
there.
no. Right now there is no policy to make a WhatsApp group. Okay.
Okay.
What are we going to
Pranam
do next
sir,
30 minutes? The next 30 minutes also some assessment was there. We were supposed to have some assessment in the next 30.
Sir, I
We
have
were
one,
supposed to
another
have
doubt.
some assessment in
Sir,
next 30 minutes, na? So what
sir,
about
sir.
that?
I have another doubt. Any assessment given after this? Any other there assessment or assignment after this?
every day after 50-minute lecture, we will have assessment for 10 minutes. Then we have another 30 minutes Q&A session. Ma'am, sir, Pranam sir, Murthy sir, are you there? If you are there, we can take 3-4 questions. We request all the participants, please help us keep muted.
Yeah.
We leave the meeting, Piyush sir. Piyush sir,
Yes.
can
So
we
if
leave?
in case anybody would like to ask and interact with Professor Murthy, you may stay back. Otherwise, people who have no queries can leave the meeting. We are trying to arrange this interaction with Professor Murthy so you could clarify any doubts that you may have.
Sir, can I ask a question, please?
Yeah, we have, you can raise your hand. Okay, we will take it in the, sequence. We see Ritu Aroraji's name first. So we would request Ritu ji to unmute yourself and ask your question. Please be very concise and precise in your queries so that, we would be able to accommodate more number of people.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Dr. Murthy, there was a question. आपने बोला कि भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा अपनी दृष्टि. So there is 21 notes Ramayana by Yashodeep Deodarji. Okay, Yashodeep Deodarji, 21 notes Ramayana. So he has interpreted Valmiki Ramayana. Valmiki Ramayana, in that Ramayana, Yashodeep Deodarji has tried to convey that the author has written some things in poetic form. That's why the things have been exaggerated. So how to get the refined pinpoint knowledge from a poetic expression? That's my question to you, using the Bhartiya Drishti.
Okay, thank you so much, Rituji. So when we look at the text of what Ramayana is for or Mahabharata is for example, they are classified as itihasas. And Ramayana in particular is also called as a Adi Kavya. So in a Kavya, there is something called as a Dhvani. Dhvani means essentially reading between the lines, as we call today. So that is something that is a very prominent thing in all of Ramayana. And because it is Kavya, it is much more softer than any other, like for example, compared to even other itihasa like Mahabharata. So one of the things that we have to understand is when we talk about itihasa, it is not history. There is a difference between history and itihasa. And we also have to understand what is the purpose of Ramayana, for example. The Ramayana is essentially to teach us the dharma, artha, kama, moksha, and how is that to be achieved. It is not for example, a technical treatise for building bridges or building planes or whatever. So it's not for that. It is for a different purpose. It is like a poetry, let's say, or a Shelley's poetry, like let's say we take Ozymandias or something like that. And then do we go into that and then see, can we validate the second law of Newton's law, or does that, can we get nuances of how do we sculpt things? No, right? Because that is not the intended purpose of that text. Similarly, when we talk about Ramayana, the purpose of the text is to teach us dharma, artha, kama, moksha. It is those chaturveda purusharthas. It is not for teaching us a Laukika Shastra. For that, there are other texts. In fact, these kind of texts that we talk about, including the Vaidika Samhitas, are less than 5% of the total text. So we should not be interpreting, we should not be ascribing things that the text is not talking about. So for us, the Ramayana and Mahabharata are itihasas. They are not technical texts. That is something that I would like you to really distinguish that from others.
Sir, but itihasa itself means that is how it happened.
Yes, itihasa, right? But then it has again it has a kernel of truth, and around which the stories can be built. And so that is why
that's my point.
So that is why we have to be very careful to try to derive any technical knowledge out of it. So Ramayana and Mahabharata are not for technical treatises. If you want technical knowledge, we'll need to go into, for example, Samarangana Sutradhara, which will give us town planning and all of those things. Brihat Samhita, or even if you want to go older ones, even the Sulva Sutras, or a lot of the Kalpa Sutras, Kalpa Shastra will have a lot of these sutras. The Bodhanina, Apastamba, they all have sutras, right? Kalpa Sutra. So that is where we can get some of the mathematical aspects of the construction. How do we construct things? How do we plow the land? Krishi Parashara. Those technical aspects, we can get it from there. So then the Ramayana is something, again we have to understand why is it that Ramayana is something that we take. Valmiki Ramayana is the core. There is no dispute about that. That is the original version of Ramayana. But then it has been told in many forms like puppetry. We have many people have painted it. Many people have enacted it through drama, all of those things. So the idea is, it is when it is done that way, it is to convey the rasa as per the Natya Shastra. It is to convey the bhava and the rasa to the audience. So that can be done in multiple ways. So those should be understood as the ways in which the bhava or rasa is being conveyed, not the changing of the original essence. That is number one. Number two, we should not ascribe any meanings to it, which especially the technical insights into a text, which itself is not talking about it. So because the purpose itself is different.
Sir, attaching a brief segment, there is a Rama Bharata Samvada in that. Valmiki
Yeah, the
Ramayana
Kashchit Sarga.
only.
you're talking about.
That's
Yes.
being from economics faculty, I find a lot of economics from that samvada.
So artha, you are basically talking about the artha. That's why I said dharma, artha, kama, moksha. The artha part is being discussed there.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah, but just wait on Urmiji. There is Purabhi who's raised her hand before you.
Okay, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
So my question was, what after UGC NET IKS? How can we contribute?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, preparing for UGC NET itself will give you a broad understanding of what IKS is. And once you qualify that, I mean, you can pursue your PhD in IKS and then get deeper into the basically the subject and then contribute that way, contributing in the research and creating new knowledge, creating new ideas, bringing it for solving contemporary problems. All of these things can be done. And then, of course, you also can become faculty members after that. So these are all multiple possibilities there, just like any other discipline.
Yes, sir, but what are the opportunities is what I was trying to ask. Like someone like me, who is from a science background and has cleared, say, UGC NET, how can I contribute in preserving our traditional knowledge?
Number one way in which you can contribute is by studying material relevant to your subject. So I don't know what your background is. Let's say I'm assuming, let's say, because you said science. So I'm thinking, let's say you are a botanist or a zoologist, let's say. So then you have to study some of the texts that are there in basically Indian knowledge systems about these knowledge of botany and zoology, for example. There are many texts. In fact, if you want to go into a lot of Ayurvedic texts, they talk about a lot of botany. If you want to look into one of the world's first encyclopedia, basically that is written in Sanskritam in 14th century by Hamsadeva. It's called Mrugapakshi Shastra. So all of these things can be studied and should be studied.
All right, sir. Thank you. I'll look forward to studying the Vriksha Ayurveda and Surapala maybe and see how
And
that
there are many,
works.
many texts. In fact, you can get wonderful English translations from Asia Agri History Foundation. They have taken the originals and then translated into English, and also includes commentary by various agronomists and agriculture engineers of practicing ones. So there are insights from that also. There are many publications by Asia Agri History Foundation.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Sir, I have some little question that how can I describe philosophy of IKS?
I think I talked about a lot about the drishti. That is basically the philosophy, if you can.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sir, I want to
may I ask?
inquire.
Urmiji,
Do I?
you can, Urmiji,
Yes.
you can ask a question, please.
Urmiji, please go ahead.
Yeah,
Thank you.
pranam sir. Pranam
Pranam.
everybody. Sir, मैं आपसे ये पूछना चाहती हूँ कि Indian knowledge system, knowledge is meant to disseminate, or it can be disseminated through publications, right? But like in psychology, only one Scopus indexed journal is there, which is being published from India. And my research in sports psychology included developing a mental training module for elite athletes to enhance the peak performance based on IKS. I got so many rejections. So what do we do? How do we disseminate knowledge? Right? Because most of the Scopus index journals are published from other countries, and they don't understand the philosophy and this thing. That is again,
There is a
as you
journal
said,
called IKSA that is published by Brill, which is one of the topmost publishers in humanities. I would request you to explore that.
Okay, thank you, sir. Can you please spell it? IKSA?
IKSA, IKSHA, IKSA
Okay, I
journal.
see. Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
I think even the Indian Journal of Traditional Knowledge does accept papers related to our traditional knowledge. You could try that. It is from the CSIR.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Vishalji, you can unmute yourself and then ask a question, please.
Namo Namah Acharya.
Pranamami.
Prashnam asti. I have I am a student of public administration, basically for public policy. So I am looking to study for the PhD from Arthashastra, Niti Shastra for governance. So my question is, I am looking to give UGC net, sir. Okay. So I have two options from public administration, and you are saying you have already told us about UGC net from IKS, but you don't need to get into the IKS things, right? Right, sir? Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, no, I didn't catch the last sentence.
Sir, as you told us, don't get into the master of IKS thing. Just explore into your own subject.
Yeah. So what I meant there was that, let's say you're studying public administration. People have a tendency when they get into IKS to think about everything other than their subject. So for example, a lot of engineers I know will get into philosophy. My suggestion would always be to them to study their discipline first in IKS, then go into other aspects, because IKS is such a broad area that trying to get into other areas will be very problematic, because understanding that and getting a deep knowledge of it will take some years of worth of serious studies. So therefore, that is what I was trying to say when I meant study your own areas, master your own area. So if you are in a public administration kind of an area, you should be thinking about how do I integrate or understand the IKS approaches and then see how we can solve some of the problems that are intractable in public administration today using IKS. So that's essentially how you should be thinking about, not get into, for example, let's say Rasa Shastra or metallurgy or some other area. That's what I meant.
Sir, my main question is, sir, so what should I go, what should I look into for the UGC net? For the public administration, or I am eligible for the IKS?
That is a call you'll have to make.
So I will be eligible for that from UGC net?
You are eligible
IKS?
for IKS. Any graduate is eligible for IKS UGC net.
Sir, my area of study is not limited to public administration. For example, I belong from Indian classical music from last 20 years from Kotali Gharana. I am learning from. So I have also depth in Indian classical music from Hindustani classical. Basically, Kotali is actually associated with Sanskrit-based Gharana. That is actually location-wise, it is in today's Bangladesh, Kotali Para. Okay, sir? So it is
No, but see, that is all good. You don't have to basically see. The thing is, I don't know what is the eligibility criteria for UGC net in public administration. But for IKS, you're definitely eligible. Okay.
Yes, sir, because the concern will be once I complete my PhD, there will be so many things, because I have also BTech in mechanical engineering, then public administration. I am also an Indian classical musician. So these are the interdisciplinary things which I have already studying from last 10 years.
Ah, wonderful. Yeah.
So it is a concern. Thank you so much, sir. I am looking to for the UGC net, and I am trying to get the subject Yogachama. That is Arthashastras.
Yeah, in the interest of time, we'll move
Good
on.
luck.
I
Good
think,
luck
yeah,
with,
but there is some person.
From Sanskrit Bharati.
And I want
I'm also a student of CSU too.
Yeah,
So
just
we'll
hold
take
on.
two
There
more
is one
questions,
Hawakalal Kipchen
Yeah,
who
yeah.
wants to ask a question. We'll take that one question today, Professor Murthy, if you're okay.
Yeah,
Ma'am,
we'll stop there.
please allow me also.
All right, all right.
you,
Yours
sir.
would be the last after that. Yeah, Kipchen ji, please.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, sir. This is my first time hearing lectures of IKS. So my question is more of an inquiry. Like when IKS basically focus primarily on epics, manuscript, and all that. But in this framework, oral narratives, oral knowledge, like that of the tribals, regarding Ayurveda, whatever it called, where do we position them? Does they count as a part of Indian knowledge system? Their positionality.
Definitely, Kipchenji, definitely. In fact, that is what I was trying to say earlier, that whatever texts that we see, whatever shastras that we see are less than 10% of the body of Indian knowledge systems. 90% of that is still preserved in our communities, in our basically artistic forms, in our festivals, in our traditions, through our elders, traditions that are passed by them. And a lot of it is oral knowledge, artistic knowledge, and through our cultures and traditions. And all the knowledge of the tribal communities across India is part and parcel of Indian knowledge systems. There are no two questions about it. And it can be in the local dialects of that particular region, of that particular tribe, and the cultural practices of that particular tribe. All of that is Indian knowledge systems. Nothing is excluded. It is not necessary that to be classified as Indian knowledge systems, it has to be in Sanskrit, Tamil, or some other classical language. It can be in any one of the languages of Bharat, any one of the languages. It could be spoken by 40 people in a remote corner of our country. That is Bharatiya Jnana Parampara. That belongs to the Bharatiya Jnana Parampara as much as anything else does. There are no two questions about it. And in fact, a lot of the practical knowledge is in the wisdom of Gao Buddhas and all of the elders that we have in our villages. So to tap into that knowledge, Indian Knowledge Systems Division has awarded many of the research projects where we are requiring the researchers to go and talk to a lot of the villagers, elders, and then work with them to understand their water management techniques, their food preservation techniques, and things like that. So all of them are part. So for example, just to give you 2 or 3 examples, there are examples from Nagaland where we are looking at the water Zabo system of water management there. There is another center in Silchar University, Silchar, Assam University, which is looking at Manipur, some parts of Tripura, and then the Barak Valley, and some parts of Mizoram. So the traditions there, the fermented food traditions there. Similarly, there are other projects in Chhattisgarh. There are projects in Uttarakhand. There are projects in Goa, again involving a lot of the tribal communities and sacred groves, all of these things. They're all in local Bharatiya Bhashas, regional languages. So they're all and orally written. There is no written texts for any of these.
Yeah, you'll get to hear more about the oral traditional knowledge also in the next few days. Thank you, Kipchenji. Preeti, yours would be the last question for the day. I apologize to all the other participants. We are anyway planning an interactive session on 1st of September. Please do, connect with us on that day. Preeti, yours would be the last.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Namaskar, sir. Sir, मेरा एक क्वेश्चन है. Actually, I'm writing a research proposal for my PhD. तो मेरे को उन ग्रंथों के नाम बता दीजिए जहाँ पे मुझे अर्थशास्त्र के बारे में मिल जाएगा, अपार्ट फ्रॉम कौटिल्य अर्थशास्त्र. उसके अलावा
देखिए, आपका लिटरेचर सर्वे मुझे करने के लिए बोल रही हैं.
नहीं सर, मेरे को ना लिटरेचर के बारे में पता नहीं है.
अर्थशास्त्र का आपको टेक्स्ट ही मिलेगा, डायरेक्ट टेक्स्ट ही मिलेगा आपको.
और भी मतलब कोई राइटर्स हैं हमारे पास कौटिल्य के अलावा जिन्होंने अर्थशास्त्र पे बात करी?
कौटिल्य के अलावा, कौटिल्य के उसमें पढ़ेंगे तो आपको खुद वही बताएंगे कि कौन कौन सा और अर्थशास्त्र है, उसी में है, उन्हीं के टेक्स्ट में है. वो आचार्यों के, पूर्वाचार्यों के उल्लेख करते हैं. और उनके बाद जो टेक्स्ट का जो कमेंट्री वाला ट्रेडिशन है वो बहुत सारा है. और आपको बृहद संहिता में मिलेगा, अर्थशास्त्र में तो मिलेगा ही मिलेगा. और उसमें पूर्वाचार्यों का उन्होंने खुद लिटरेचर सर्वे करके ही लिखा है वो बुक. और उसका
सर कोई हमें
मेंशन भी करते हैं.
कोई ऑनलाइन लाइब्रेरी है जहाँ पे सारी चीजें मतलब
ऑनलाइन मिलेगा,
मिल जाएगा? ठीक है, थैंक यू सो मच. बस जी, धन्यवाद सर.
Thank you. Piyush, back to you.
Yes,
so
yes.
I'm very sorry. Can I say one thing? There's no query. I just want to say one thing.
Yes, please. Please be quick.
Ma'am, sorry, ma'am. Sir, sorry. Murthy ji, Acharya ji, I have been following your work from a very long time. मैंने आपकी book Indian Contribution to Science Volume 1 से मैंने IKS से बहुत कुछ सीखा है. सर, आप मेरे लिए इंस्पिरेशन हो. सर, क्या कोई ऐसे मतलब मैं एक नया ऑर्गेनाइजेशन मैंने शुरू किया है जिससे मैं IKS पे वर्क करना चाहती हूँ. क्या सर कोई तरीका है जिससे मैं बहुत बड़ी चीज मांग रही हूँ, लेकिन क्या कोई तरीका है जिससे आपकी थोड़ी सी गाइडेंस मुझे मिल सकती है अपने न्यू
I will
IKS?
talk offline about that. Definitely, ऑफलाइन हम लोग बात कर सकते हैं, ईमेल कीजिएगा मुझे।
Thank you. Sir, how will I get your email ID?
प्रेजेंटेशन में ही है।
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
नमस्ते, good luck.
Thank you, Professor Murthy. Piyush?
Yes. Pranam to all. So this is the first day. We thank you, sir, for delivering your session. And it's so every time we see the enriched session. So we request all the participants, please access the PPT from the Google folder. And every day we'll meet at 3:30. So see you tomorrow. We'll end with a Shanti mantra. Astu Pranam. ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
नमस्ते all.
Pranam. First, see you.
Namaste to all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, sir, for